I don't know, there's so much, you know, just staying alive. It was a lot. And I've had nightmares. Coming back from Vietnam, trying to transition now back to being just another soldier, because after I left Vietnam, the only other incident I had with that was when I was at Fort Carson, Colorado. And they didn't know what to do with me. So I was working in pathology. Pathology is where when you die or something like that, they take you downstairs, you know, to the room down there. And one day I came in and they had about 3 newborns laying up on the table. And so I helped the mortician or whoever he was to open the baby's bodies. And then when I would take a body down, escort a body, back then the hospitals were long wooden hospitals, okay? Not the modern kind you had then. And you had the floors were painted to tell you which way you had to go in there. It was just old wooden hospital. So I would have the bodies tucked, the sheets over the bodies tucked in tight. So people would look, they didn't want to look because they could see the outline of the body. And I would take them down to the mortuary, I think that's what they call it, but where the doctors was going to open up the chest or whatever and cut that open. Yeah, and I did that. I would cut around here, cut down to here, and then I would cut across here, and I'd pull the skin back this way, and then I would take the saw and I would cut a little notch, and I'd go around where you could take the skull off. And you know, those types of things are what I did. And just pass whatever he wanted. He would tell me what he wanted out of the body, and I would give it to him, you know, cut it, you know, give it to him. And when I left Fort Carson, I went to Alaska, and I still was carrying this MOS. So I went to Alaska, they didn't have nothing for me to do. So the Sergeant Major, he wanted me to stay on call all the time because if a helicopter went down out in the field, or something like that. The first situation I had was Amadorf Air Force Base was there, and they had skydivers, not parachutists, but people that skydive, you know, that kind of stuff. And this young female airman, her chute didn't open, so she had pancaked on the ground, right? So we had to go pick her up, you know, get her ready, you know, for shipment back to the, you know, to family, whatever it was. And other things like that. Anybody that died in an accident had to come through there, you know, car accident or something. We had this because they were members of the service. Some guys got drunk sometime in that snow, and sometimes they would be under the snowbank, and it's a lot to it, you know. But I got promoted. And then I got promoted to again, and my first sergeant said, well, Frazier, we're gonna give you a different job now. And so that's how I got out of there. Got a different job, yeah. And didn't look back. Didn't look back, yeah. That's about it. I mean, there's so much I forgot that I couldn't tell you because I can't remember, and I have to dig back in these flipping pages trying to bring it back up.
This should be part 1. You go home, you think some more, and I'm here.
Oh, right. It's just so much. But the Vietnam part of it was my first time under fire. My first time having anything to do with corpses, deteriorated corpses. You know, people are. Another one I probably didn't mention. When I was still in the mortuary at Saigon, at Tong Chinook. Not Saigon. The air base is Tong Chinook. Saigon was a city. They had found some remains in a hole. I don't know what province it was, but it was driving distance. And got in the back of a Deuce and a Half and rode up there with them. Twice I did this for 2 different things, and I might already mention one. Rode up there, and we brought these bodies, what were remains of the bodies. They wasn't Americans, they were French. You can look at the emblems on the collar of the uniform. But they didn't know. They just thought they were Americans. But they were French soldiers that had been in the ground there for who knows how long, because that used to be French Indochina, and the French gave it up. So we recovered those French remains and we took them to the mortuary, and I guess somebody knew what to do with them because we never seen them after that. And I went on a couple of helicopter crashes when I was still down there in Saigon, Tung Chinook. Went to the helicopter crash where I could tell it was a large black man, a large Negro, colored man. And he was floating on top of the water. And how you gonna pick a man up like that that's falling apart? You know, because if you pull on him, he's gonna come apart. And he was bloated, like tongue sticking out. So we took some canvas, something like canvas, and put under him and pulled him back up to the bank and tried to get him up on the truck. But he had skin slip. You know, you could see the red part of his skin under there, and his mouth was bloated, you know, his tongue was swollen. I don't know how you got there, but he was a GI, you know, so he was a GI. And the same thing with the ones that go down in helicopter crashes, the same thing, the ones that fall off ships and get washed up on the bank. You know, we had to do that. Guys doing stupid stuff, you know, getting drunk down there, drinking all the booze and with the sex ladies, you know. Some of them got killed, you know, in those brothels, I guess you want to call it. And you always had to worry about, in Saigon, you always had to worry about people. They had a lot of BEQs where people stayed, but they had sandbags all around the front of it. You know, it's supposed to be protection. But sometimes they would throw bombs in there, you know, and kill the guys in there, and that was protecting the buildings. See you guys later. I'm about finished, yeah. And it's, as I'm talking, more and more stuff comes to mind, but it was an experience. I can tell you this. I had times I thought about committing suicide. You know, when I was in Alaska, I was at Fort Carson. I don't know. One time I almost ran into you have an overpass, and you had where you go under the overpass. I almost ran into the. I know I had nightmares sometimes, but sometimes I couldn't watch war movies. You know, but now I can. You know, because I'm acclimated to the situation. But I haven't met anybody since I left Vietnam that was a mortician like I was. Not a table assistant. I wasn't a mortician. I was a table assistant, learning the skills that I needed before they let me loose and the other guys with me to work on American KIAs. So that's what it was about. It didn't matter if you were killed in action, whether it was a car accident or whatever it was. They still had to come through the mortuary. We still had to do the same things we would do if he had went down in a helicopter and was burn up or whatever, and the skin, whatever, the juices or whatever coming out of the body through the cracks.
Skin slip.
Yeah, and sometimes I'd have to cut the finger, I probably told you this, off the guy's fingers because they were wilted and all like that, and you take a needle and put water in it to puff it up so you could take the fingerprints and identify wherever any whatever you call it, marks or things. And I was a table assistant for the embalmer, and he showed me how to embalm. I would shoot from here, just down, and I would shoot from here up. And the same way going up into the body until they got rock hard. I mean, rock hard. They were, I don't know I think the reason for it because of the long distance they had to go, you know, to a funeral home. But we just put them hard, you know, just put as much in there as we could, you know, and try to make them look good, put Vaseline on their face and wrap gauze around it and put Vaseline on their hands and wrap them up. And But a lot of them were closed caskets, especially the ones from the Ira Drang Valley, where the first big battle between American forces and the North Vietnamese. You may have heard of it. I can't think of the name of it. It was a movie, a big movie.
We were soldiers.
What?
We were soldiers?
Yeah, we were soldiers once. Yeah, that was it. That was it. That was the unit that originally was the unit I was in.
First AirCav.
The first AirCav. They changed it over to the first Cav division and retired the colors for the first AirCav. I mean, the AirCav division. Yeah, they changed that over. Yeah, 173rd, I think it was. 187. That's what it was. I've got so much stuff flying around here. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and we ran every day. You know, PT every day, running. You know, a mile or so around. You know, push-ups, all that kind of stuff. Repelling from helicopters. And the Army was getting all kinds of new helicopters, so we were testing those helicopters that eventually went to Vietnam. It was a test unit. And we were jumping out of C-130, C-124s, and all the aircraft that the Army, Air Force had to provide for us. You know. It was a test unit, you know. That's how I guess they tested, and some people got injured. You know, we had to climb walls, you know, do rappelling down hills, rocks and stuff like that. We never walked anywhere. It was always double time, you know, everywhere you went. And sometimes we would run with the rifle like that, you know. So it was building up your, so pretty soon you were ready to kill. I'll tell you this story. We just come out of the field, and this is funny, dirty, all messed up. And we went to the PX, and there was some soldiers in front of us. And he looked around at the rest of us. We were so filthy. And he actually got out of line because we were trying to get some candy bars and stuff like that at the PX. You know? And that was kind of funny because he said, who are you guys, you know? Because we looked like the Dirty Dozen, you know, coming straight out the field, you know, wanted something to drink, you know, some water. Not water, but Coke, some Pepsis, and candy bars. That's where you get that fast energy. Baby Ruths, you know, those types of things. And guard duty, all that type of stuff, you know. You had to do all, and run every day in the morning, and then before we finished for the day, we had to run. We were in excellent shape, and we were aggressive forces for the 82nd Airborne. You know, we aggressed against them in the swamps of Georgia with snakes swimming around. You know, that's how we learned how to fight. And at Fort, there's another Army base in Georgia. Can't think of the name of it. It's a jungle, and we went down there to train. Snakes, and we had a couple of guys that did hunting. And he caught a rabbit out there. He skinned the rabbit and everything, and he put him on a stick, and we ate rabbit that night out there. And we wasn't supposed to drink the water. You know, this is in the States. And we put rocks in our mouths. They told us that, little pebbles to keep it wet. Sometimes we would trip, like we tripped, and hit the water. Got some water and kept on. Because they wanted us to do that. Canteens were empty. Now, this is not Vietnam. I'm talking about in the States, in Georgia.
Why did they resupply it?
No, it was the training. It was the training. We did 100-mile marches. Yeah. It was the training with all our equipment. Yeah, it was the training. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. No. Mm-mm. We're at Fort Jackson doing the same thing. You know, marching, walking, but we always sung cadence. You know, that type of stuff.